I was 12 when we moved to Elmswood. My mother said it would be a fresh start, a quiet place to heal after my father's death. But Elmswood wasn't just quiet, it was silent. No children played in the streets. No bells rang from the old stone church that loomed at the village's center. The villagers seemed afraid of something. They'd avoid the church, walk faster when passing it, heads bowed like they didn't want to be seen by something. One afternoon, I asked the village baker, Mr. Hale, "Why doesn't anyone go to church here?" His face darkened. "We prayed too much, boy," he muttered. "We called him, but he didn't come alone." When I pressed him, he just shook his head and warned me, "Some doors once opened never close." I didn't understand, but I would. The forbidden door. My mother made me promise never to go near the church, but curiosity is louder than fear. One evening, the sky bruised purple with an incoming storm. I approached the abandoned church. The wooden doors were cracked and rotting, but surprisingly, they opened easily when I pushed. Inside, the air was stale, heavy with the scent of old stone and something else. Something sweet and decaying. At the altar stood a large wooden cross, empty. But what caught my eye was the burned silhouette of a man's body on the wood, like someone had once been crucified there and burned into it. And then I heard it, a voice soft and layered like it came from deep beneath the ground. "Samuel!" I froze. "Come closer, my child." I stepped forward, heart hammering. The voice grew clearer. "They abandoned me, Samuel, but you came." Suddenly, a cold wind blew the door shut behind me, and the windows cracked. I turned to run, but I wasn't alone anymore. A figure now stood beneath the cross. The broken Savior. The man was tall, draped in tattered white robes, his skin pale and split like cracked porcelain. Thorns were buried deep into his skull, their roots tangled beneath his skin. Blood dripped slowly from his hands and feet, but the wounds moved, whispering in tongues. He smiled, but there was nothing kind in it. "You know me, don't you?" I could barely speak. "Jesus?" I was. His voice echoed as if thousands were speaking through him. "They prayed to me, but they did not know what they invited." He stepped closer. "When they nailed me, they thought they were ending me, but pain opened another door." His bleeding hand hovered over my head. "Sin answered, and sin wears the faces you trust." I wanted to run, but my body was frozen, rooted by fear. "You came to me, you believed, and belief gives me form again." His hand touched me. My vision blurred, and that's when the visions began. The visions of sin. I saw flashes of places I'd never been. Churches consumed by black vines, crosses that bled, villages like mine swallowed by shadow. I saw the people of Elmswood, their ancestors, gathered in this very church, desperate, praying for salvation during a famine centuries ago. But what answered them wasn't God. It was something that wore his name, something that had once been nailed to the cross and left something behind. When I snapped back to reality, he was gone, but his whispers stayed with me. The haunting begins from that night. He never left. I'd see him at the foot of my bed at midnight, his cracked eyes watching me. Sometimes he'd sit at my window, his bleeding hand resting on the glass. His voice followed me. When I passed the village well, "Samuel, I thirst." When I walked through the woods, "Samuel, why do you fear me? You called me." When I closed my eyes at night, "Samuel, drink of my sin." I told my mother, but instead of denying it, she broke down crying. She whispered, I prayed to him too when your father died. I asked for him to come back, but what returned was wrong. I realized she knew. She had seen him too. Part 6. Possession. Days passed, but I no longer felt like myself. I would wake up standing outside barefoot in the mud, not remembering how I got there. I would speak to people, and they'd stare at me in terror, because sometimes I spoke in voices that weren't mine. Once, I passed an old woman in the street, and I heard myself say, "My flesh is sweet, my blood is warm. Drink, and you shall never thirst." But I didn't remember speaking. The villagers began to avoid me. I heard them whisper, "He walks with the broken Savior. He's been chosen." I begged my mother to leave the village. "We can't," she whispered. "He's bound to you now. He will walk with you wherever you go." One night, I returned to the church. I wanted to end it. I wanted to face him. The doors opened for me as if they were waiting. The cross still hung, still burned with the shadow of his body. "You returned, my faithful one." His voice echoed around me. He stepped from the darkness, his arms wide in mockery of welcome. "Do you see now? I am the prayer answered. I am the faith fulfilled. You made me real again." I screamed, "What do you want from me?" "To be known, to be believed, to spread again through your words, through your fear, through your faith." He touched my forehead, and I collapsed, visions flooding me again. This time of me standing in front of other villages, other churches, telling stories about him, summoning him into their lives. "You are my disciple now." When I awoke, the church was empty, the doors wide open. I wasn't alone inside anymore. I wasn't alone inside my own body. Now, I walk the streets of Elmswood. Children point and whisper, "There's Samuel, the boy who walks with Jesus." But they don't understand. It's not Jesus who walks with me. It's the thing that came when they called his name too many times. It wears his crown. It bears his wounds. It speaks in his voice. And it waits patiently for someone else to believe. The girl who heard his voice.
My name is Anna, and I met Samuel when I was 14. I didn't know his story. Not yet. When he arrived in our village, Graymore, he walked alone. He spoke softly. He seemed normal. But there was something in his eyes, something too old for a boy his age. He began gathering us at night, telling strange stories, stories about a savior who returned after the cross failed to hold him. The adults didn't listen, but we, the children, we followed him. His words were soft but magnetic. When he spoke, the air thickened. It felt like we were breathing him in. "Have you heard of the cross that bled?" Samuel would whisper. "It weeps in the dark for those who will follow." One night after the gathering, I asked him, "Samuel, is this Jesus you talk about, the one from the church?" He smiled faintly. "I walk with him." I thought he meant like a believer. I was wrong, so wrong. That's when the strange things began. The stone cross in the center of Graymore cracked overnight. Crows gathered in impossible numbers, circling the village bell tower, silent, watching. Some of the children who sat closest to Samuel began to act strange. They would speak to themselves in corners. They would wake up with blood around their mouths and not know why. When I told my mother about Samuel's stories, she grew pale and gripped my wrist tight. "That boy," she whispered, trembling. "The boy who walks with him." She ordered me to stay away from him, but I couldn't. Something in me wanted to hear more. Something in me craved it. One evening, I saw Samuel sitting alone near the village well. I approached carefully. "Samuel," I said, "what happened in your old village?" "In Elmswood?" He didn't look at me. He just traced his finger along the rim of the well, whispering, "Elmswood is still there, but the people, they belong to him now." I shivered. "What do you mean?" "They prayed too hard. They believed too much. When you beg for a savior, you don't get to choose what answers." He finally turned to me, his eyes distant, almost hollow. "Do you want to hear him, Anna?" Before I could answer, I heard it, a faint humming voice rising from the dark well. It wasn't the wind. It whispered my name. "Anna, come closer." I stumbled backward, heart racing. "Did you hear that?" Samuel only smiled. He knows you now. Over the next few days, more children followed Samuel. They began wearing handmade thorn crowns. They stopped attending church. They whispered to each other in strange, ancient words I couldn't understand. The village priest, Father Marius, finally confronted Samuel in the middle of the square. "What are you teaching these children?" the priest demanded. Samuel tilted his head, his soft voice carrying an unnatural calm. "I'm teaching them to believe. Isn't that your job?" Father Marius trembled. "Believe in what? You speak of a broken thing that wears the name of Christ." "It is Christ," Samuel said, "but not as you know him. This is the Christ who remained on the cross when the prayers ended, the Christ who feeds on the cracks in your faith." The priest raised his crucifix. "You will leave this village." Samuel only smiled, stepping closer until the crucifix burned black in the priest's hand. "I already belong to you, Father. You've prayed to me all your life." Father Marius screamed as his crucifix cracked and shattered. Samuel's voice grew louder. "You prayed for him to return, and here I am." I couldn't sleep that night. I kept hearing the whispers, the humming from the well, the faint tapping at my window. I wanted to run. I wanted to leave Graymore, but I was already marked. When I looked in the mirror, I saw faint traces of thorned roots growing beneath my skin. I was becoming one of them. I confronted Samuel the next day. "Why me? Why us?" He looked at me with something like sadness. "Because you believed, Anna. The more you fear, the more you believe, and he grows stronger through you." Tears welled in my eyes. "You can stop this. You can fight him." Samuel's smile faded. "There is no him and me anymore. There's only us." And then his voice changed. It was no longer his. "My child, drink of my sin." I ran, but his voice followed. The people of Graymore began vanishing. One by one, homes were found abandoned, stone crosses toppled and bleeding. The church bell rang at midnight, though no one pulled the rope. Crows gathered on rooftops, staring silently as if waiting for something. I saw Samuel standing near the well again, surrounded by the remaining children. They chanted in low voices, "Drink of his sin, drink of his sin, drink of his sin." Samuel turned to me, his face pale, his eyes dark and hollow. "It's too late, Anna. He walks with us now, and soon he will walk with you too." His shadow stretched across the ground, twisting, forming the shape of the cross. But on that cross, something still hung. Something alive. When the last of Graymore's churches fell, I fled to the mountains. I wasn't running toward safety. I was running toward the Order of the Severed Light. My mother told me old stories about them, warrior monks who hunted corrupted faiths, those who knew of the broken Christ and fought to seal him away. They found me before I found them. An old man with one eye appeared before me in the snow. His name was Father Elias. He examined the faint thorn scars crawling up my neck and whispered, "You've heard his voice?" "Yes," I breathed. "He's using a boy named Samuel. He's spreading." Father Elias looked grim. "We have failed before. We cannot fail again." They armed themselves not with swords, but with relics soaked in silence, ancient prayers forbidden by the church, scriptures written in languages older than Christ himself. They prepared me for the final battle. They taught me the last prayer, a prayer that doesn't save souls, it severs them. When I returned to Graymore with the monks, the village was nearly gone. The people had either fled or been taken into the growing congregation. In the center of the square, a new cross had risen, but this one was not made by human hands. It was formed from blackened roots, twisted bones, and the whispering vines of the curse. Samuel stood at its base, waiting. His face was no longer that of the boy I knew. His eyes were pits of bleeding light. His voice carried the weight of thousands. "Anna, you've come to believe. That's all I needed." The monks formed a circle around us, chanting the severance prayer, but the shadows broke through their circle. One by one, the monks fell, dragged screaming into the earth as their bodies rotted in seconds. Father Elias, his voice steady even in death, whispered to me, "Finish the prayer, sever him, or he will spread forever." I faced Samuel, but it wasn't just Samuel now. The broken Christ loomed behind him, massive and deformed, crucified but writhing, his arms nailed but reaching, his face hidden behind a crown of thorns that dug so deep it bled roots into the earth. "You cannot stop me now," the voice thundered through Samuel's mouth. "I have been born again through your belief, through your fear." I fell to my knees, trembling, and began reciting the forbidden severance prayer. "Let not the flesh bind the shadow. Let not the name bear the sin. Let the body be severed." The ground split open beneath me. The cross shuddered, the vines burned. Samuel screamed, not in pain, but in desperation. "Stop! You prayed to me, you believed in me, but I kept going. Let the faith that chained him now unmake him. Let his name fall silent from all tongues. Let the last believer forget him." The broken Christ howled. His shadow began unraveling, peeling away like burning paper. But then Samuel's voice returned, his true voice. "Anna, please, I don't want to be alone again." I hesitated, for just a moment. His eyes, his real eyes, begged me not to finish. But I remembered the nights at my window, the whispers from the well, the children who vanished, the priest's hand burning to ash, and I spoke the last line. "I sever thee." The cross collapsed in on itself, the vines shriveled, the church bells crumbled to dust, the shadow was gone, the whispers stopped. Samuel fell to his knees, his body weak, tears falling down his pale face. "It's quiet," he whispered. "For the first time, it's quiet." I wanted to help him. I wanted to hold him, but I knew what I had to do. The severance prayer only worked if the last believer vanished too. "Goodbye, Samuel." His eyes widened. "Anna, wait." But I had already made my choice. I spoke the final severing word one last time, not aloud, but in my heart. And with that, Samuel disappeared. His body turned to dust in the wind. The curse was gone. The village fell silent. I live far away now. I never speak of him. I never tell his story. I've burned the prayer. I've erased every trace. But sometimes, just sometimes, when I walk past an old church, I see a boy in the shadows, his hand raised, his face pale, and I hear him whisper just once, "Please, remember me." I never look back. because I know remembering is all he needs to return.
The house on Willow Street was nothing remarkable on the outside. A modest two-story rental with peeling white paint and a small porch swing that creaked whenever the wind passed through the narrow lane. But for Emma and her younger brother Jake, it was home. Their parents had moved them there after a difficult year. A fresh start, they said. The town was quiet, friendly, and safe. At least, that's what Emma had believed. It wasn't until the first night that Emma sensed something was wrong. They moved in during the afternoon, unpacking boxes and arranging furniture. The previous tenants had left in a hurry, and the landlord warned them to expect some quirks. Creaky floors, flickering lights, the occasional plumbing oddity. Nothing too unusual, he'd said with a wink. But as night fell and the clock neared midnight, the atmosphere shifted. Emma had just finished reading a book in her room when the silence was broken by a faint whisper, barely audible, like a breath on the back of her neck. She paused, heart pounding, listening. Jake was supposed to be asleep in the next room and their parents were downstairs. The whisper came again, this time more urgent, almost a plea. Emma felt the hair on her arm stand up. She got up and tiptoed to Jake's door, knocking lightly. "Jake, are you awake?" No answer. Pushing the door open slowly, she found Jake curled under his blanket, eyes wide in the dark. "I heard it too," he whispered, voice trembling. "Hear what?" "That whisper. It's saying something." Emma swallowed hard. Maybe it's just the wind. But deep down, she knew it wasn't. At exactly midnight, the house seemed to exhale. The temperature dropped sharply. Emma shivered, pulling the blanket tighter around her shoulders. From downstairs, they heard a slow, deliberate creaking. Footsteps? But when their parents called out, there was only silence in response. Emma and Jake crept down the stairs, their footsteps light but cautious. In the living room, the air felt heavy, oppressive. The old grandfather clock, which hadn't worked for years, chimed 12 times. Slow, dragging, wrong. "Did you wind this clock?" Emma asked their mother the next morning. "No," she said, puzzled. "It hasn't worked since before we moved in." That night, the whispers grew louder. Emma lay awake, listening as voices seemed to drift through the walls. The whispers weren't in any language she recognized. Garbled, broken syllables, sometimes seeming like crying, other times urgent warnings. She tried to block it out, pulling the pillow over her head, but the whispers followed her into her dreams. Shadows flickering just beyond her vision, pale faces staring silently, eyes filled with sorrow and anger. Days passed, and the occurrences intensified. Doors slammed shut on their own. Lights flickered violently. Jake refused to sleep alone. One evening, Emma found herself drawn to the attic, a place they'd barely touched since moving in. The door creaked open, as if inviting her. Inside, dust motes floated in the weak beam of her flashlight. On the floor lay a collection of old photographs, yellowed and torn, showing a family that once lived there. A mother, father, and 2 children, much like Emma's family. The faces were solemn, eyes haunted. One photo had something scrawled on the back in faded ink. "Don't forget us. We're still here." Emma felt a chill crawl down her spine. She researched the house's history and discovered it had once been the site of a terrible tragedy. Years ago, the family in the photo had died mysteriously. The children vanished without a trace. Some locals whispered about a curse, others about restless spirits trapped between worlds. Emma realized the whispers were coming from those lost souls, desperate to be heard, to be remembered. One night, determined to confront the haunting, Emma lit candles around the living room and sat in a circle. Jake joined her, clutching a small teddy bear for courage. "Who are you?" Emma asked aloud, voice trembling. The whispers swelled into a chorus of voices overlapping, pleading. "We're trapped. We want peace. Find the truth." Suddenly, a cold gust extinguished the candles. In the darkness, a translucent figure appeared. A little girl, pale and weeping, reaching out. Emma blinked, her fear mixing with pity. "We didn't mean to stay," the ghost whispered. "Help us." With the dawn, the spirits faded, but their presence lingered, a reminder of the house's sorrow. Emma and Jake's family decided to stay, honoring the lost by telling their story, making the shadows a little less lonely. Midnight remained the hour when the veil thinned, when ghosts whispered their stories to those willing to listen. There was once a house deep inside a dark forest. It had no name, no lights, and no path leading to it. The locals in the nearby village called it a alone house because it stood by itself, abandoned and forgotten. Everyone said the house was cursed. No one dared to go near it. But one day, a teenage boy named Ryan came to visit his cousin Mia in the village. Ryan was from the city and didn't believe in ghosts or curses. He thought the people in the village were just superstitious. One evening, while hanging out with Mia and her two friends, Jake and Lauren, Ryan said, "There's nothing scary around here." Mia smiled. "Then prove it. Stay one night in a alone house." Jake and Lauren laughed. "No one has ever stayed there past midnight." Ryan agreed. He thought it was just an old house. So he packed a flashlight, snacks, and his phone. He planned to film everything and show them how brave he was. The next morning, Ryan walked into the forest alone. The deeper he went, the darker it became. The trees were tall and close together. There were no birds, no wind, no sound. Finally, after an hour of walking, he saw it. A lone house stood tall and broken. The wood was black from age. The windows were cracked. The door was open like it was waiting. Ryan stepped inside. The air was cold and smelled like dust and old things. The floor creaked under his feet. He shined his flashlight around, broken furniture, cobwebs, and silence. He laughed to himself. "This is nothing," he said, filming on his phone. But then he heard something, a soft knock. He turned quickly, but no one was there. He continued exploring. In one room, he found a child's drawing on the wall. It showed a black figure with no face and a small house behind it. Below it were words written in crayon. "Don't wake her up." Ryan felt a chill. "Who's her?" he whispered. Suddenly his flashlight flickered. The air grew colder. From upstairs he heard footsteps, slow, heavy. Ryan froze. "Hello?" he called. No answer. He climbed the stairs slowly. Each step groaned under his weight. At the top was a long hallway, doors on both sides. One door was slightly open. He pushed it open. Inside was a bedroom untouched by time. The bed was made. The window was closed. But on the wall, a mirror hung crooked. He stepped closer. In the mirror behind him was a woman in black. Her eyes were white, her face pale. Her mouth opened slowly. "Stay with me," she whispered. Ryan turned around, but no one was there. He looked back at the mirror. It had cracked. He ran down the stairs into the kitchen, but the front door was gone. Not just closed, gone, like it was never there. Panic rose in his chest. He tried his phone, but the screen was black. No signal, no battery. The house groaned. Something was coming. Ryan opened a door and ran down into the basement. The stairs were steep and narrow. At the bottom was a room with strange symbols on the floor and candles around the edge. In the middle stood a tall mirror. He walked toward it, drawn like something was pulling him. The mirror began to glow. Suddenly, hands grabbed his arms, cold, dead hands. From the mirror, the woman in black stepped out. "You woke me," she said. "Now you must stay." Ryan screamed as the mirror pulled him in, and then silence. The next morning, Mia waited at the forest's edge. Ryan never came back. A search party went into the forest, but they found nothing. No house, no path, no sign of Ryan. Only his phone lying on the ground, with the last video showing him walking into the house. Since that day, some say you can still hear his voice calling from the forest, but no one follows it. Because those who enter our alone house in dark forest never come out. I always hated hotel rooms, not because they were dirty, this one was actually spotless, but because they never felt right. Too quiet, too polished, like something was waiting for me behind the curtains or under the bed. But I didn't have a choice tonight. The conference in Shimla had ended late, and the roads were too foggy to drive back. My friend Priya bailed at the last moment, leaving me alone to check into the Everpine Lodge, the only place nearby that still had vacancy, room 103. The receptionist gave me a strange look when I asked for it. "You sure?" he said, tapping the key card on the desk like he was hoping I'd change my mind. "It's the only one left," I replied, forcing a smile. He hesitated. "If you need anything, the night bell's there." I didn't ask what anything meant. The room was ordinary, a bit old-fashioned with floral wallpaper and a weird, musty smell. The bed looked comfortable, at least. I dumped my backpack on the armchair and checked the time. 11:47 p.m. I sighed. Just 13 minutes to midnight. Then I'd be fine. I always told myself nothing bad could happen before 12. I kicked off my shoes, changed into my sweatshirt and joggers, and FaceTimed Priya. "Dude, it looks haunted," she said immediately, squinting at the walls behind me. "Thanks for the vote of confidence." "I'm just saying, you better sleep with the lights on." I rolled my eyes. "I'll survive." "Probably." We chatted for a few more minutes until her signal cut out. I set my phone on the nightstand and turned off the main light, leaving the bedside lamp on. 11:59 p.m. I curled up in bed, pulling the blanket over my shoulders. Tick. The second hand on the wall clock moved with a loud clunk. Tick. 12 a.m. And then tap, tap, tap. I froze. The sound came from the closet. 3 soft taps, deliberate, like someone inside was waiting for me to respond. "Nope," I whispered to myself, sitting up slowly. "Probably the pipes, or a squirrel, or ghosts don't knock, right?" I got up and stood in front of the closet door. "Hello?" I called, regretting it immediately. No answer. heard it, a whisper, right behind me. "You closed it." I spun around. No one was there. The lamp flickered once, briefly casting double shadows across the walls. My breath hitched. My legs were frozen in place, every nerve screaming to run. But to where? I was already inside the room, alone. I had to be alone. I forced myself to speak, my voice trembling. "Who's there?" Silence. I backed away until I reached the bed, never taking my eyes off the closet. I grabbed my phone. The screen was black, battery dead. I swear I charged it before coming. I always do. Suddenly, the closet door creaked open again. Only this time, it opened all the way, and something stepped out. No sound, just the shift of shadows. At first I thought it was a trick of the light, but the shape moved toward the dresser mirror. It wasn't walking exactly, it just sort of slid. I could see it better now. A tall figure in a tattered white gown, its head slightly tilted. No face, just static, like an old TV screen, buzzing faintly. I stumbled back and hit the nightstand, knocking the lamp. The room plunged into darkness, and the thing, whatever it was, turned toward me. It didn't speak this time, it just breathed, long, rattling breaths like someone drowning in air. I didn't scream, couldn't. My voice had evaporated. I grabbed the lamp, fumbled with the switch. Nothing. But then my eyes adjusted, and I saw it again, reflected in the mirror, only the mirror. It stood right behind me, hand raised. But when I spun around, nothing, no one. I turned back to the mirror. It was gone. I backed toward the hallway door, yanked the handle, locked. The key card. I'd left it on the dresser. Okay, I whispered, trying not to hyperventilate. Just open the closet. Look again. There's nothing there. I crept forward. Every step was like moving through thick water. The closet stood open like a mouth waiting to swallow me. I peeked in, still empty, until I looked up. A face, pale, upside down, pressed against the top panel like it was crawling on the ceiling inside the closet. Its eyes opened, solid black, and it smiled. I screamed. This time, the sound finally came out, raw and high-pitched, bouncing off the walls like it didn't belong to me. The face vanished as I stumbled back, crashing into the dresser. I didn't wait. I grabbed the key card, lunged at the door, and swiped it. Red light. No. I swiped again. Red. Behind me, I heard the closet door slam shut. Then the whisper returned, closer now, like it was right at my ear. "You weren't supposed to look up." I turned the handle one last time, and this time, by some miracle, the door opened. I bolted into the hallway barefoot, nearly slipping on the slick wooden floor. I didn't stop until I reached the lobby downstairs, gasping for breath, clutching my chest. The front desk was empty. A dusty bell sat on the counter. I rang it once. Ding. Nothing. I rang it again. Louder. Ding. Still nothing. That's when I noticed the clock in the lobby. It still said 11:59 p.m., but my phone had said 12 a.m. The digital wall clock in my room said 12:04 a.m. I saw it change, and then the bell rang on its own. Ding, ding, ding. The receptionist finally emerged, groggy, like he'd been asleep standing up. "You came from 103? He asked, like it wasn't a question. I just nodded. He looked at me, really looked. Then he flagged down a passing truck, and begged the driver to take me anywhere. I never should have accepted that invitation again, but the debt never stopped growing. And when the card slid under my apartment door in the middle of the night, no knock, no sound, just that familiar red square with the circle, triangle, and square, I didn't hesitate. This time, it wasn't an island. It was an old factory on the outskirts of Seoul, long abandoned and wrapped in rust and shadows. The guards wore the same pink jumpsuits, the same expressionless black masks with shapes. But something was different. Their movements were twitchy, like their joints didn't work right. One limped with a jerky gait. Another's head tilted too far, neck cracking faintly with each motion. There were only 45 players this time, each of us placed in a single room, room 456. That number again. But this wasn't the same bright white dormitory. This room was dark. The walls pulsed like skin. The ceiling dripped something thick and black. And in the corner was a faceless doll, slumped over in a child's chair, its head slowly turning whenever someone spoke. We weren't allowed to leave. We weren't told the rules. Until the TV mounted on the wall turned on by itself, static humming, and a distorted voice boomed, "Welcome to the final game. There is only one rule. Survive the night." A countdown began. 12 a.m. The lights went out. We screamed, scrambled, clawed in the dark, and then the room changed. Suddenly, we weren't in room 456 anymore. We were on the glass bridge from the last game, suspended in air, each step cracking louder than the last. Except now, the bottom was filled with hundreds of bodies, all twitching, headless, their arms reaching up as if begging to be freed. I blinked, and I was back in the room. One girl began laughing, then screaming. Something was behind her, something that wore the Squid Game guard's mask, but with dozens of black, dripping arms that crawled on the walls like a spider. It snatched her and melded into the corner, leaving behind her clothes and a single red shoe soaked in black slime. By 1 a.m., we were down to 35. The room kept changing. Each hour took us into a different game from before, but twisted like nightmares remembering the past. At 2 a.m. we played red light, green light, but the doll's face was gone, just a black void with teeth. It whispered your name when you moved, not shouted, whispered, like it was inside you, knowing your sins. When it turned around, one boy just exploded. His inside splattered against the wall in a burst of black smoke and screams. By 3 a.m., we couldn't scream anymore. Our voices were gone. Every time we opened our mouths, our own faces mimicked the guards, blank and hollow. People began clawing at their own cheeks, trying to pull off whatever was covering them. Only 18 of us left. At 4 a.m., someone tried to kill themselves, but the knife melted in their hand. The voice returned, "There is no exit, only the end." Then the walls began to bleed, not red, but a thick black ink, like oil. The ink poured into the room until we were chest deep. then neck deep. It was alive, dragging people down, whispering things in 1,000 voices. Some were loved ones, some were our own. I heard my sister's voice. She died years ago, calling for me from beneath the surface. I almost followed her. I almost wanted to. 5 a.m., only 5 of us left. Now the doll was standing, no longer plastic, no longer lifeless. It had grown tall, too tall, its arms dragging on the floor, the child's dress soaked and stretching, its head spinning slowly like a record. We were forced to sit in a circle, and it made us confess. One by one, we admitted the things we'd done to deserve this. The debts, the betrayals, the murders. One man refused. The doll screamed, not loud, but deep, like the floor itself was crying. He burst into black flames and was gone. At 6 a.m., only I remained. The doll looked at me with no eyes. The voice spoke one last time. "Congratulations, player 456, you win, but you may never leave." I woke up screaming in my own apartment. The card was gone. But when I looked in the mirror, I wasn't me anymore. I wore the black mask, and behind me stood the doll, smiling. 6 a.m. I thought it was over, but I was wrong. I hadn't left the game. I had just brought it home. The apartment was too quiet. The air was thick, like breathing underwater. Outside the window, nothing. No buildings, no sun, just a swirling fog, gray and endless, with faint whispers echoing inside it. I tried turning on the lights. They worked, but they didn't light anything. The shadows didn't move. On the table, the Squid Game card had changed, white now, and written in smeared red. Round 2 begins at midnight. Your past will be joining you. Then a second line formed as I watched, and they are very angry. 12 a.m., the walls began to bleed, not red, black. Thick, tar-like fluid oozed from the cracks, and in the liquid I saw faces, eyes wide, mouths open, screaming without sound. I recognized them, players I'd watched die in the first game. One crawled out of the wall. He had no lower jaw. He grabbed my wrist with freezing hands and whispered, "You let me fall." I begged. You watched. I ran. The door wasn't a door anymore. It opened into the dormitory from the games, but the lights flickered violently, casting shadows that didn't match anything in the room. The bunk beds were all upside down, nailed to the ceiling, and the floor covered in footprints. Tiny ones, children's footprints, burnt into the ground like they'd walked through fire. A TV turned on by itself. A single word in static font, "Seek." The lights went out. The second game had begun. This time, it was hide and seek in total darkness with ghosts. But they weren't just any ghosts. They were players who had lost the games, now cursed, twisted, and filled with rage. I crawled under a broken bed. All around me, the temperature dropped. My breath froze in the air. A girl with her head twisted backward floated past me. Her feet didn't touch the ground. Her skin dripped black wax. She paused and whispered, "You were supposed to die. You took my place." I held my breath, but she smelled it. Her neck extended, cracking with every inch. She screamed, a horrible metallic shriek, and the whole dorm began to shift. Bunk beds collapsed, the walls melted, and we were suddenly outside. On the Squid Game playground, only this time it was buried in fog. Ghosts were everywhere. Some hung from the monkey bars by their necks. Others crawled in the sand, skin peeled off, whispering, "Player 456, come play." 1 a.m. I found the others. A few real players had been dragged into this round. One boy was crying. He kept repeating, "It wasn't me." I didn't push him, but the ghost in front of him had no face, just a black void for a head. It opened and swallowed him whole. Only his hands remained, still shaking. 2 a.m. The doll returned, but she wasn't made of plastic this time. She was human, a rotting child, skin falling off the bone, her eyes nothing but sockets filled with bugs. She didn't move. She just floated above us, humming a lullaby backwards. One by one, the other players were lifted into the air, invisible strings around their necks, and snapped, their screams echoing off nothing, until only I was left. 3 a.m. I tried to hide again, inside one of the toy houses, but it was already occupied. A woman sat in the corner, the first person I ever eliminated in the original game. She turned around slowly, her head fully severed, but still connected by red thread. She said nothing. She just handed me a marble. "Your turn to play." The moment I touched the marble, everything changed. Suddenly, I was back in the glass bridge game, but it was a graveyard. Each glass panel was a tombstone, and every time I stepped, hands burst from below to grab me. I screamed. No one heard. Then I saw her, the doll, on the other side. She whispered, "You've been dead since the first night. You just haven't accepted it yet." 5:59 a.m. A bell rang. The game stopped. I woke up in my bed, soaked in sweat and ink. The lights were normal. The apartment was quiet. But in the mirror, my reflection was gone. Behind me, a child's handprint in blood. On my phone, a new notification. Round 3. Invite accepted. Your friend will join you shortly. And as I read it, I heard someone knock from inside my closet again. But this time, they whispered my name. Time, 6 p.m. I didn't answer the knock, but the door opened on its own, and in stepped my best friend, or the thing that wore his face, pale, quiet, eyes sunken like something had eaten him from the inside. Me, whispering, You shouldn't be here." He tilted his head. His smile split too far, as then he spoke, but not in his voice. It was layered like 10 voices at once, old, young, male, female, all whispering over each other like a cursed choir. "Friend," demonic voice, "you invited me. We heard you, all of us. We were waiting." Then everything went dark. 12 a.m. Game start. We were no longer in my apartment. We stood in a giant graveyard of old Squid Game arenas, all twisted, rotting, and overgrown with black vines. Playground sets were rusted. Blood stained the sand. Overhead, the moon was too close. You could see veins pulsing across it like it was watching. Then came the announcement, but this time it didn't come from speakers. It came from the ground, from the dirt, from the corpses beneath. Ground, groaning voice. Round 3 begins now. Game, shadow tag, run, or they'll find you and wear your skin. The earth split open. Dozens of ghostly players climbed out, eyes missing, mouths full of teeth. Some crawled, others floated, all screamed in the voices of people I knew. 12:10 a.m. We ran. My friend, still alive or pretending to be, grabbed my arm. Friend, panting, "This isn't a game. We're not supposed to be here. I saw my sister. She doesn't have a face." Behind us, one of the ghosts shrieked, its voice like nails across a blackboard. "Ghost girl," giggling. "Come back. 4, 5, 6. I have your name. I wrote it on my grave. Want to see it?" The trees we passed breathed. They whispered as we passed. Trees in sync. "Kill him. Only one survives. Only one. 12:33 a.m. The center arena. We found shelter in an old doll room, the same one from red light, green light, but it wasn't empty. In the corner sat a child, sobbing. She looked normal at first, pale, shaking. Me, "Hey, are you a player?" She looked up, and her face slid off, a black hole where her features should be. Her hand snapped backwards, and she lunged forward on all fours, spider-like. Girl, distorted. I was eliminated for crying. Now I'll cry for you. She screamed, a sound that made the floor bleed. My friend collapsed, hands on his ears, bleeding from his nose. Friend, terrified, "Please, please, I don't want to die here." 1 a.m., the mirror field. We reached a field of mirrors, but they didn't reflect us. They showed how we died. In one mirror, I was choking on marbles. In another, drowned in ink. One showed my friend being torn in half by children in red suits, laughing. Then the mirrors began to crack. Each crack released a ghost, screaming. The doll appeared, but this time she was half real, half rotted, eyes stitched, mouth open too wide, doll in low, broken voice. "You were chosen 456. You cheated death." But death remembers. She lifted one finger. "Doll, tag, you're it." And then she vanished. 1:30 a.m., final phase, bloodlight. Sirens echoed across the nightmare playground. Voice from sky, deep, gurgling. Last round, bloodlight. Only one can leave, kill, or be haunted forever. Suddenly, everyone around me, ghost and human, turned to look at me. Even my best friend. He cried. Friend, sobbing, "I'm sorry, I have to go back. I have a family." He lunged at me with a shard of mirror, but before he could reach, the ghosts grabbed him, tore him apart, pulled his soul straight from his chest. 3 a.m., alone again. The doll reappeared, closer than before. She leaned into my ear, doll, soft and slow. "You won 456, but now you're the game." She handed me a new card, black, gold lettering on it. "Congratulations, host." The mirror behind me showed me wearing the front man's mask. My eyes were gone, and behind me, hundreds of children waited, dead, twisted, smiling. 6 a.m. I woke up in bed again, but this time I was wearing the mask. The phone buzzed. New names, new players, and a knock at the door from the inside. Time, 11:59 p.m. The city was gone. No buildings, no streetlights, just endless white fog and the quiet hum of children singing backward. I stood on a black stage, alone, a spotlight above. Beneath me, an ocean of faces, all ghostly pale, staring up. Former players, all dead. A screen lit up in the fog, floating mid-air. Final game, host. Rules, there can only be one. Kill your reflection or become it forever. Then a mirror appeared. I stepped closer. My reflection smiled before I did. Then it spoke. Reflection, slow, corrupted voice. "You're not the player anymore. You're the game." I turned to run, but the stage was gone, replaced with a long hallway of doors, each marked with player numbers. They bled black liquid from the keyholes. Whispers came from inside. Door 067, girl's ghostly voice. "I died begging for my brother, and you just watched." Door 101, angry male voice. "You shoved me. You watched me fall. Your hands are red." One door creaked open on its own. Inside, a wedding chapel. At the altar, me, but with no eyes, standing next to the doll, wearing a bride's veil. Doll, sweet, rotted voice. "Say, I do, or say goodbye to your soul." 12:10 a.m. Final game begins. Suddenly, I was in my childhood home. Everything was too clean, too quiet, except for the hallway mirror. My reflection was still smiling, but now it had someone behind it, A child, face pale, hands twitching, eyes completely black. It pointed at me. Child in layered voices. We're waiting. We're hungry. We want to come back. Me, terrified. Who are you? Reflection, smiling. We're you. The part that liked the games. 12:30 a.m., possession begins. My body stopped listening. I moved, but I didn't choose to. The mask of the front man appeared in my hands. I tried to throw it, but it stuck to my skin, melting onto my face. The voice returned, louder now, splitting my head open. Game voice, demonic scream. You win! Now run the game. My reflection reached through the mirror, grabbed me by the throat. 12:45 a.m., final betrayal. In the center of the room, a circle of players appeared, each one tied to chairs. Some real, some ghosts. One of them, my best friend again, bloodied, shaking. Friend crying, "You promised. You said we'd leave together." The voice offered a choice. Game voice. One lives, one dies. Pick or we'll do it for you. I refused. That was my mistake. The ghosts swarmed him, laughing like children. They ripped his soul from his mouth and fed it to the doll. She smiled, doll, murmuring, delicious. 12:59 a.m., the final door. Only one door remained, a giant black one with my own number, 456. I opened it. Inside, a throne made of broken masks, bones, and Squid Game cards. At the center, a mirror. My face looked normal again, but I knew better. Reflection, serene. Sit, or someone else will. I sat. The throne grabbed me. Chains of red rope wrapped around my arms. The mirror cracked, and the doll's face appeared inside it, smiling. 1 a.m. The new host is born. My body went cold. I couldn't feel my heart anymore. Then, applause. Thousands of ghost children clapped. A new Squid Game card appeared in my lap. Gold, shining, embossed in blood. Congratulations, host 456. The next round begins when they wake up. I looked to the mirror one last time. This time, it didn't show me, it showed you.
Do you believe in ghosts? What if I told you BTS does? What if I told you they once encountered something no fame could protect them from? They're global icons, beloved by millions. But behind the cameras, in one forgotten studio, something waited. It started in 2021, during a creative break. BTS decided to work on something private, something raw and personal. They wanted to capture the real emotion of their bond, their struggles, and the ghosts of their past. Namjoon suggested an idea. Let's go somewhere quiet. No staff, no producers, just us. Their manager found an abandoned recording studio hidden in the mountains near Gangwon. Once used in the 1980s, it had been closed after a fire and multiple missing persons cases. But that wasn't listed in the brochure. It was called Moonlight Sound. The building stood half-rotted, barely restored. Inside it was silent. Too silent. The air smelled like burnt paper and mold. The control room was dusty but functional. The walls were lined with heavy soundproofing. Taehyung muttered, "Hyung, this place feels like a grave." Jungkook replied, laughing nervously, "Well, let's bring it to life then." They began recording vocals. For the first 2 nights, everything went smoothly, until track 0 appeared. Late at night, Yoongi returned to the console to review recordings. There it was, track 0.mp3a file no one had recorded. He clicked play. It was 7 voices singing, but distorted, slower, warped, almost demonic. At the end, a child's voice whispered, "You came back. Why?" Yoongi deleted the file. It reappeared the next morning. Jin saw a child behind him in the bathroom mirror. "I used to sing here too," the child said, "before they buried us." Jin screamed. The others rushed in. The mirror was shattered. No one else had seen the child. Taehyung, exploring the basement, found a storage room full of old tapes. He played one labeled Patient Session Kim Taehyung. The voice on the tape, his own, as a child, but he had never recorded it. It said, "Please stop making me sing. They live in the music." Suddenly, the lights cut out. That night, Jungkook claimed someone kept mimicking his voice outside his room. Jimin stared into the sink for hours, whispering about voices in the drain. Hoseok began dancing uncontrollably in the hallway. His eyes rolled back. Namjoon tried to keep them together, but then he saw the shadows moving through the walls. They tried to leave. The door wouldn't open. Yoongi activated the old soundboard to record a final message. "We are BTS. If anyone finds this studio is cursed. It feeds off sound. The children were real. Their voices live in the walls. Do not sing here. Do not listen to track 0. The studio was found abandoned a week later. No members, no bodies. Only one working speaker, playing track 0 on a loop. Fans thought it was an ARG, a marketing stunt, until someone played the audio backwards. It said, "We sang to forget. Now we scream to stay." They say fame follows you everywhere, but sometimes, so do ghosts. Pause. Would you still want to be in BTS if it meant never leaving the studio? The sun never rose the next morning, at least not for them. Taehyung was the first to notice. "Hyung, the window. It's just black. Not dark, not night, just nothing. No birds, no light, not even time." Their phones were dead. Their watches stopped at 3:33 a.m. Namjoon tried restarting the generator, but the wires were melted from the inside. Then they heard it, music, playing from the old cassette deck in the basement. A new tape, track 7. They hadn't recorded it, but it had each of their voices, singing in pain, crying, screaming, pleading. Yoongi set up a camera in the hall to capture what was happening. What he caught was impossible. The hallway showed all 7 of them walking through it while they were asleep, in their beds. But in the footage, they were smiling, following something just outside the camera's frame. In the final seconds, the camera tilted itself toward the ceiling and captured a girl, dangling upside down from the rafters, eyes black, mouth sewn shut, pointing at the lens. Jimin was missing again. They found his room torn apart, bed flipped, blood smears trailing into the studio floor. Not across, down. A trapdoor had opened beneath the drum platform. They climbed down. The passage below was narrow, stone-lined, lit only by the red blinking light of a forgotten metronome. And on the walls, lyrics, scrawled in blood and crayon, over and over again. "We made music for them. Now we are the music. Sing louder so we don't scream. Don't stop, don't stop, don't stop." In the underground chamber they found it, a room lined with hundreds of speakers, all humming, all vibrating. From each, faint childlike voices were singing BTS's past songs, off-key, distorted, as if underwater. Suddenly, Hoseok screamed. He pointed to one of the speakers. It was leaking blood. From the mesh grill, a hand emerged, small, pale, twitching. Jungkook tried to smash it with a mic stand. The room went black. And then, they heard it. A full choir of children, singing a lullaby in perfect harmony. Sleep, sleep, you're not alone. The studio's walls are your new home. Taehyung collapsed. He began whispering in a voice that wasn't his. We were here before. We never left. We're the ones they erased. The voice grew deeper, colder. One of you was born here. One of you is the key. Yoongi stepped back. What the hell does that mean? But Taehyung's eyes turned white. He pointed to Jin. He was the first. He heard us as a child. He returned to finish the chorus. Jin began to remember. Flashes, a hospital bed, a room of kids humming in unison, a doctor forcing him to sing into a mic, a girl beside him crying blood. It wasn't just a dream. He had been here before. He was the last surviving patient of Moonlight Sound. I never told anyone. I thought it was gone. The ghosts didn't want revenge. They wanted a finale. One final song, sung by him. Jin stepped up to the old mic. The rest gathered behind. As he sang the forgotten melody, the studio trembled. The ghosts rose, hands on their shoulders, eyes closed. For a moment, it was beautiful. 7 voices, 7 souls, 7 stories. Then, silence. The lights exploded, the tapes combusted, and the studio collapsed into the earth. Construction crews were hired to rebuild the site. They found no bodies, just one thing, buried under the rubble, an unburned reel labeled Track 7. They sent it to Big Hit Entertainment. It never arrived. But that same night, Army around the world reported something strange. A new track appeared on their playlist at exactly 3:33 a.m. Unlabeled. No cover art. When they pressed play, it was the final BTS song. And in the background, a child's voice whispered, "Don't sing it out loud." The music spread like a virus. By the next morning, millions had heard Track 7. Some claimed it was beautiful. Others said it gave them vivid nightmares of drowning, burning, or singing in endless black rooms. Big Hit denied involvement. They said the file didn't exist on their servers. But audio engineers found something strange hidden in the waveform. Spectral data. Images encoded into the sound. The 7 BTS members crying, surrounded by ghostly children. That week, something unexplainable happened. Every physical copy of BTS albums in South Korea containing vocal samples from the missing members melted. Hard drives with BTS archives erased themselves. Recording studios near the area began reporting phantom songs bleeding through their equipment. One engineer described hearing laughter, followed by the sound of children being told to sing through their sobbing. A year after the collapse, a young fan named Minji, obsessed with uncovering the truth, snuck into the ruins of Moonlight Sound with a handheld recorder. She found something terrifying. The basement was still there, and it had power. The red light of the metronome still blinked, and in the corner, a sealed soundproof booth, locked from the inside. She peeked through the glass. Inside, she saw all 7 BTS members, still, silent, staring. Their mouths were stitched shut. Behind them, ghostly children stood in rows, humming softly. Then, one of the members, Jungkook, stepped forward and placed his hand against the glass. The lights flickered, the door unlocked, but Minji didn't open it. She ran, and when she listened to a recording later, there was only one thing on the tape, a single voice, a girl, whispering, "The studio has them now. They gave us a voice. In return, we silenced theirs." Months later, an anonymous file titled "The Studio They Never Left.mp3" was uploaded to the deep web. It contained The original track 0 raw, distorted vocals of Jin, Taehyung, and Yoongi crying. A ghostly chorus of children singing a lullaby made from BTS lyrics, played backwards the last 10 seconds. A whisper, "Army, do you hear us? Sing us home. Finish the chorus, please." And then, static, forever. Their bodies were never found. Their voices still echo in the haunted frequencies. The studio didn't just trap them, it recorded their souls. Do you believe BTS faced a ghost? Would you play track 7 if you found it? Or would you leave it buried, just like they should have?